You can sit down.
All right.
Need my phone. Don't need a microphone. Probably have a loud enough voice. Can everybody hear me?
Sir.
Okay, very good. Interesting testimonies. I've been told I have 10 minutes. 11:02. All right.
We've got a clock right there.
I am Dale Kratt. I'm the influence behind the seriousness and the content of Jack's faith. Okay. That day he became a believer. 1976, we were on the same ship. At that time, I was not a believer, and we were pretty close together because we worked together on the same equipment as machinist mates. We were what we called A-gamers back then, and we were working on auxiliary oiler 145, Hassayama, the USS Hassayama. And we used to work on the steam winches. Of course, we would, what we call unrep underway, and all those big cables for fuel lines and supplies that went between destroyers and frigates and aircraft carriers and even sometimes submarines. We did all that work together. So we knew each other, and trust me, we did not always get along. All right, there were times when there was conflict. But I remember when Jack first became a believer, because I was there. And I was not a believer. I came from a very religious home. And the funny thing about all of us that were in the Navy at that time is this. We all left where we lived because we all wanted to get away. To find something new, to find something different. But when we found ourselves together, we found that we were the same old people no matter where we went, what we did. There was no change in the kind of people that we were. And when Jack became a believer, and back then he was, he had one foot in the world at the time and one foot in the church. I'll not tell you exactly how. And he would witness to me, and I'd say, well, I understand. I've heard that all before. I grew up in a religious home, Jack. I know that. But I told him one day, I said, one day I'll become a believer. I told him, Jack, when I become a believer, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to go in, I'm going to dive in, that's going to be it. Jesus Christ will be my Lord. None of this mansy-pansy kind of Christianity where you got one foot in the world and one foot in the church. None of that. So I was kind of thinking, what do I share with respect to Jack? Okay, we were non-believers. I became a believer. I became a believer through his witness and through a Navy chaplain. I was AWOL for probably 120 days. I said, I'm going to use some language here, screw this. I'm done with the Navy. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I came here. It was a mistake. My division officer came to me, he said, Kratt, yeah, we want you. I said, I want out. We're not letting you out. Why not? Because you're a good mechanic. You got good hands. We need you. So after being AWOL for 120 days, I finally went back, and I remember that day. That was 1977. The old Pearl Harbor from World War II, wooden buildings there. As you entered Pearl Harbor, I was swabbing floors. I was on restricted duty, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. The bottom fell out. I said, this is it. So I went to talk to a Navy chaplain. Couldn't say a word. I cried. Nobody had to tell me that I had done evil. Nobody had to tell me that I had hurt people. Nobody had to tell me I was a sinner. I knew all those things. I felt the weight. And when I became a believer in Jesus Christ, the weight was lifted. It was a miracle. No more drugs, no more nicotine, no more alcohol, no more any of it. My desires had changed. And Jesus Christ then, in 1977, as a result of the testimony of a Navy chaplain and as a result of Jack's testimony, I became a believer. Now, it was interesting. We used to tease those guys that were believers on the ship. We used to call them the God Squad. Yeah, you know those guys, the God Squad. Right? You know, kind of little loose here. You know, couldn't handle it. Well, back in those days, in the 1970s, there was a Jesus freak. Remember that? The Jesus freak movement, you know? So I get to muster at 7 a.m. The guys look at me and they say, hey, Kratt, here's a cigarette. I said, no, man, don't want that. What? I said, I'm a Jesus freak. They looked at me and said, what? I didn't know what else to say. Of course, they came back to me at that point and said, yeah, you know, them Christians, they do this, they do that, they're hypocrites, I've been to church, da-da-da-da. I said, okay. I sat down that day. Unfortunately, I have to talk about myself to talk about Jack. This is going to be a good story. So I read the Gospel of John for the first time in my life, from beginning to end. Couldn't put it down. Couldn't stop reading. When I got to the end of the Gospel of John, I went, wow. I was totally blown away. That Jesus in the Gospel of John had touched me. He changed my life. After reading the Gospel of John, I went back to the guys who gave me a lot of flack about becoming Christians. I said, listen, look, this is what John says. This is what Jesus says. This is what it's all about. And it wasn't 30 minutes later, they were all silent. Every single one of them. Not because I had wisdom, not because I was smart, but because now they had something to think about. Now they had something to chew on. Something besides the same old cliches that they had always heard through their entire life. So Pastor Hopper had a ministry to sailors back then. We all congregated at their house. This is the most intense moment that Jack and I ever had. I'm going to give his side of the story. I'm going to give my side of the story. Yep, I got 2 more minutes. Jack was adventuresome, all right? Loved his motorcycles. Loved his motorcycles. When I first got on ship, I remember, these guys had just come back from Westpac. They'd actually bought motorcycles in Japan. And they had them all there on the deck. There were sailboats on the deck, furniture sets on the deck. You know, I went, oh, wow, what is this? You know, it was like Christmas from Japan. Well, he had a motorcycle. It was a Yamaha 360. I'd never ridden a motorcycle before. You kind of know where this story's going, don't you? So he decided he was going to go up to a Yamaha 500. He said, you want to buy the 360? I said, no, I didn't say no. I should have said no. I said, yeah. You know how to ride one of those? Well, I can figure it out, I'm sure. It was a real advantage in order to get up in the morning at 4:30 a.m. to be at Reveille on deck at 7 a.m. I had to get up, catch 2 buses from Palolo down through Honolulu and so forth. I said, yeah, it'd be great. So we used to leave about 6 a.m. And, you know, Jack was fast. He was really He was really comfortable on the bike, and I tried to keep up with him. He's in front of me going, rum, rum, zoom, zoom, and I'm going, come on, Jack, slow it down, buddy, So 6 a.m., we're down in Palolo, the place where the church was. And Jack's up ahead of me. We're going to get on H1, head for Pearl Harbor. He zips around that turn. If you know that turn in Hawaii, it's right there. You know where the turn is, right? Everybody knows where the turn is at. All right? So you come around that turn, and then you can go down to King Street, or you can go to H1, right? Right over there. So when you come around that turn, there's a big fence. And there's a big telephone pole right there. All right, so he's zipped around there, and I'm coming around, and I lose control. There's a big, dirt and stones and rocks on the side of the road, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna dump this. I don't want to dump it into that telephone pole. I don't want to dump it into that fence. I'm gonna have to try and ride this thing out. Fortunately, there was a little old driveway where the curb stopped, and I went up on that, and all of a sudden, boom! And I went, and I thought to myself, you know how in death experiences you go, slow motion. I'm going to die. This is it. Boom! I land on the, oh, I'm alive. Wow. And then I go, it kind of hurts somewhere. I looked down at my leg, and it was like this. My leg had caught the crossbar on the handlebar. As I went across and went up over it, I hit the side of a guardrail, boom, bike stopped. I kept going, of course, about 175 feet or so. Then I rolled and rolled, boom, it was so quick. Well, Jack's on H1. Where's Dale?
He's going.
Where's Dale? Baby's caught in here. Traffic was pretty heavy. He's not here. Stop on the side of the road. Where's he at? Turn around. Meantime, I'm back and going, help! Help! Nobody there. Okay.